like to make an environment where we can know Father God. You like to make an environment of revelation so that we can know the hope to which we've been called, and the glorious inheritance of the saints, and that you reveal your power that rose Jesus from the dead, that our eyes are open. Holy Spirit, you love to open our eyes. You love to show us Jesus. And so just open our eyes. I want to see you. I want to know you. I want to be known by you. I want to know your power. I thank you for everyone, Lord, who has come to this conference, the sacrifice they made to get here, what it cost them. I just ask that you would give them back every penny that it cost anyone 7 times over. I ask that you would prosper everyone in this place and everyone that's already gone. Lord, not only did they get spiritual food, but I ask that you would just give them above and beyond, exceedingly above and beyond anything they can ask or think. I pray, Lord, that you would make the money come back to them 7 times over for what they sowed, Lord God, into coming the cost of whatever work they missed, gas, airfare, hotels, or just recompense. Father, anything that they gave in the offering, that it would be 100-fold return. I thank you for it, Father. I know that you hear me, and I know that you answer my prayers, and I know that I have this, that they will all receive gifts from heaven, and they will know that it's from you. They will receive 7-fold for every penny they spent to get here. Not just the knowledge and wisdom they got, Father, but they're going to receive recompense. Thank you, angels, for doing God's word, doing God's bidding. You hearken unto his voice. Thank you for ministering for us and to us, faithful ones. Amen. I feel I actually am encountering so many different things that I'm a mess. You know, I want to cry, I want to laugh, I want to curl up in a ball, and I want to run around the place. You know, I feel like all these different things at one time. You know, I feel like a little puppy. You know, just happy to be alive. You know, you know, and the puppy finds his tail. You know, it's like finds his tail, and it's like the new thing. You know, but I believe that you know, we've gone several levels up, you know, and that's what I want. I want my thing is I want to replicate what Christ did in me. You know, I want to replicate that in everyone. And a lot of times you're going to notice this yourself. It's better to get a new Christian, you know, like get a new Christian and then teach him them the way that they should go, right, you know, like right off the bat. And then, like Benny Hinn told me when he talked to me, the Lord told him to talk to me in '86, and he said, "You have a lot of stuff the Holy Spirit's gonna have to get out of your life, because I had been trained wrongly, and so my perception of God was based on my father." My earthly father, and the fact that religion has interpreted Jesus. So, like, you know, the pastor was here yesterday, or, you know, Pastor Wayne and Lisa from Wisconsin. I'm trying to tell you something here. I'm trying to show you something. Benny Hinn said it's going to take a while for the Holy Spirit to uproot the religion in you. Amen. You understand what I say when I say that? And religion will take the power of God away, where when I was with Jesus, the words where he was quoting out of the Bible all the time. I mean, can you imagine 45 minutes he's talking about himself? And it's okay for him to talk about himself. But it had such power that, I'm not kidding you, you know, me being the scholar that I was, the expert, I became became a pert. And when I came back, I had to look up verses that he told me because I didn't know if it was really in there. Do you hear what I'm saying? Yeah. And he told me chapter and verse and the person he was talking to. But I had to go back and check it out. And this is what happened in '86. You see, Lane, can you stand up? I didn't, this is one of my buddies from CBC. He was actually the one on the motorcycle the night that guy levitated in the assembly of, he was there, and but he was working with the youth, so he didn't see the guy actually fall back and levitate, but he dealt with them later after they got them groceries and fed him. He had to deal with them, and so he was with me in college, and we just got back together again. It was in Fort Myers. When he was in Fort Myers, I met him, and then he's starting to, he says, you only told part of that story about that guy levitating. He said, I didn't connect him at the time as being the person. So when I don't verify stuff, so now I've verified the other story, then now I can tell all of it because I verified with somebody that was there. But there were several people involved with the thing. But see, when I was at that school, I was having much more happening to me, and he understood me, because I remember now, he understood, I'm at a Bible college, and everybody comes to get trained to be a minister, but I'm having Bible studies at a Bible school after class, and he was like, he said he would go to one of them. Now, I'm only 6 months saved in the Lord, but none of these people know that. So, you were telling me that one time there were so many people that we just went in the lobby of one of the dorms or something, right? Is that right? And that's when you're like, man, what is this guy doing? He's like teaching the Bible. But what you don't know is that it was just on me. Oh, well, you knew that, but this is what happened. And he doesn't know this, but when I was ready to graduate, I graduated in 3 years, and then I stayed because the Lord said you didn't obey me. I wanted you to get a music degree and a journalism degree. So there was this minor that you can get in journalism and one in music. And I told the Lord, he goes, what are you doing? I was getting my cap and gown. And he said, no, you're not graduating because you didn't do what I told you. I told you to get a music degree, and I told you to get a journalism degree. I said, Lord, I don't like music. And I said, I don't like writing either, and I'll never use either one of those. That's what I said. So he doesn't know any of this, so I had to actually stay an extra year and get those degrees. And the Lord told me, he says, you don't understand it now, but you will. So I want to talk about the timing of the Lord this morning. But here's a guy who was there, and this is what happened. The Lord started to move on me in a strong way. And my professors, I got 2 majors, so I stayed an extra year, and I figured I'll just get another bachelor degree. Because that's the way I am. I'm like, I see guys jump out of planes, and I think I can do that, so I did that. And then I watched Greg Louganis dive, and I said, I can do that. So within a year, I'm in state championships in high school, diving. I'm just that kind of person, I can do that, So I just went and got another degree. And I lost touch with you. I don't know when you would you grad?
I was there 2 years.
2 years, okay. Okay, but there's so many things that he saw happen, but this is what happened. After the 3rd year and the 4th year, the professors, now listen to me, the professors said, I gotta go back to Bolivia for 3 weeks. I had planted over 100 churches. So, I'm not kidding you. You can laugh if you want, because I'm laughing. This professor said, would you teach your class? I go, okay, that's 100 people in that class. They're all like me, and you want me to teach the class while you're gone. And you're not going to be there. And you're okay with that. Did you hear what I'm just saying? Because it's on you, Kevin. It's on you. He says, you can teach my class. It's a Tuesday, Thursday class. So I had to teach and all these people are like, what's he doing teaching a class? But you know what it started? It started in the lobby when, you know what I mean? It was on me in the lobby. So I just did it. I just wanted to talk about the Lord and teach, and I didn't know what I was doing, just like I don't now. I just this is what happened too. Then I went and got my music degree, but I was voice major. So I had done the voice because, I'll do the voice, but the theory part of it, I didn't even like it. And so I didn't finish my degree, so that's why I had to stay. So I'm taking these courses and I'm failing them. So I took music theory 3 times and failed it. And so I audited it, and I failed at auditing. Like where you don't even know. So then I got a D, and I passed. So and I had a 4.0, but because I obeyed the Lord, I went down to a 3.0. Just by all those E's. You know what I'm saying? The D's, it messes you up, and it's for exponent. It's just like so hard to bring that GPA up again once it's down. It's just the weirdest thing. I think it's satanic, but you know what I mean? It's easier to go down than up. There's something wrong there. So anyway, I say that because what happened is that something because of this, I realized that the timing on things and obeying God is so important. I was a brand new Christian. So I want to talk about this more, but it's just so interesting that you're here. He was in Fort Myers, and I said, I know you. And he goes, well, and he started telling me, and then I didn't know he was here because for some reason he looks different again since last year. So he goes, hey, you don't tell all that story about that guy, that demon-possessed guy. And I go, who are you? And he goes, I'm the one on the motorcycle. So I wanted to tell you what I don't tell you is do you remember that demon, when I went home, there was that black hooded demon. After I cast it out, it appeared at the foot of my bed. And I left him, he was at the service. He still was at the service because he was in the Royal Rangers and he was taking care of the kids. But anyway, he went over to the place where they were feeding this guy and everything. And the demon jumped on him so he says, you don't tell all that. Well, see, what happened was when I fell asleep crying because the demon didn't completely leave the guy. And so the Lord said it comes out by prayer and fasting. So when that demon at the foot of my bed said, I'm going to find you and I'm going to kill you, I was lifted up over the city and I saw him on his motorcycle coming from that man's house through, and I watched each stoplight, and so I came back down and I just started laughing at the demon. And I walked around him and I opened the door and he is coming down the hallway. Just like I saw him coming through the city. And then he told me that everything. Isn't that so? Now I can tell the whole story. But the thing was, my point is that years and years later when I was at Southwest Airlines, that woman had that same spirit in her and said the exact same thing that was said. And this is what was interesting was, the Lord, while he was at that house, the Lord told him, you go to Kevin's dorm and you do it right now. So he left. When he was out there on his motorcycle going to see me, he started praying in tongues because the Spirit of God hit him. Amen. And when he did, that guy got up out of the chair in the house, ran out, and said, I could kill you. Whoa. He started saying the same thing to him. And it was just this spiritual warfare going on. But it's just interesting that he's here. But the thing I wanted to say is that these kind of things drove me even further into my walk with God. And so what I did was I was given this tape of a man who was really used by and powerfully in the Spirit of God, but he wasn't really well liked by the school, so I actually hid the tape. And then there was people that gave me books and tapes on faith that we weren't allowed to have those. And I would go to the library, and these guys were part of the beginning of this movement. But now, they're. So I would hide them under my rug. And this tape, and there was 2 tapes. One was this man. I put it in. You have to understand. See, I had a lot of religious thinking. I grew up Presbyterian, and I wasn't even told I needed to be born again. And so when I got born again, I went back to my youth group, and I just led them all to the Lord, and that was like 20 people. And they all said, well, we're not staying here. And so they all left, and then I got called in by the pastor because he's mad because you just split my church. I go, I didn't split your church. I said, they all were led to the Lord. He goes, they were Christians. I go, no, they weren't, according to John chapter 3. I said, you have to be born again, and I quoted all the verses, and I said, you should have told us this. He says, well, you're going to have to answer to Jesus Christ why you split my church. So we all left. And they said, well, the whole youth group said, well, where are you going to church? And I said, I don't know, but I'll find some place where they believe in the born again experience and the power of God. So within that year, I was at the college that Lane was at. Amen. And I had given up everything, and I was already on my way to the academy the next year. So you understand that what I'm telling you is that in this third year that I stayed, I went full immersion. Like, that's why I like these conferences to be 4 and 5 sessions, because I want to immerse you in the environment, because that's what I did. So this is what you have to do. There is no choice. There's no choice. You see, you've gone past the point of return. Okay, there's no return now. And this happens every takeoff. We have V speeds, V1, V2, VR. And they're already set. They're mathematically computed according to the way the airplane, the air temperature, everything is based on the runway length. So we have the V speeds, and we determine those before we take off, actually at the gate. Okay, so V1 is the point of no return. So it's mathematically calculated at 130, 140 knots. We have to take off. There's not enough runway to hit the brakes and stop. So we have to take off, and the pilots call it, if something happens to the airplane during that run, and the first officer calls V1, at that point, we have to rotate and go into the air. We call it taking the problem into the air. So if there's a problem at V1, we have to take the problem into the air and work on it, but we cannot stop. Okay, so, and VR is that rotation speed, and then V2 is established rate of climb. When you put the gear up and you start that, they call it cleaning up the airplane. So you establish it like sometimes 20 degrees pitch up, and if you watch, it's a huge climb at first when you watch airplanes climb. Well, you have to realize that there is that point where what you know will cause you to fly. And you have to fly. And anything you encounter, you just have to resolve it in the air, but you're flying. And that's what's happened. You're flying. Okay, well, that happened with me. And so I listened to those tapes. Now, I don't know a thing. I just had a bunch of supernatural experiences, but I had God visiting me. I had all these things happening, but I need to know the Word of God. I need to understand, like, what is the truth, because there's so many interpretations. So Pastor Wayne, he lives in a city that he was sitting here yesterday, and Friday night, I think he came, right? Was it Friday or Saturday night? Or what day is this? Just so you know, just to tell you what's going to happen here, I'm trying to tell you this because when they called me and asked me to come to that church, he was just a youth pastor, and he talked the senior pastor into having this crazy person at his church, cold turkey. And I guess he kept bothering him, but so Pastor Jerry had me, and when I got there, he doesn't know anything. He doesn't know anything, but he felt it was the right thing to do. So they have me speak, and the Lord tells me, you're giving the offering back. And what happened was a week before I left to go there, the Lord appeared to me at the foot of my bed, right where Kathy, he would appear to me. He's appeared 3 times to me in Seattle, Washington, at the house we had. And I said, Kathy, why does he appear right here in this spot by the foot of the bed? She says, that's where I knelt and gave my life to the Lord. So he would appear there. But he said to me, now I'm trying to show you something about the Lord. See, you think you know everything, but you don't. And it's just like me. I'm just going to share these things to save you a lot of trouble. Because he stood at the foot of my bed after I accepted that first invite with Pastor Wayne's church. He was Pastor Jerry at the time. And the Lord said to me, I am the door. And I looked at Kathy, and she didn't even wake up. And I go, yes, you are the door. You said that to John. And he goes, no, you don't understand. And he points at me. He goes, you don't go anywhere on this earth unless it's through me. Is that clear? Amen. And he turns around and he walks away and he's mad. And I repented. I said, Lord, I'm so sorry. And I felt like, what did I just do? And what I didn't discern was how sacred your life is and how sacred your steps are ordered by the Lord and how he wants to be involved with everything. And that he was left out of the loop with that. And I didn't discern that I didn't discern how sacred it was. So like for you to even be here this morning is sacred. Because, it's sacred for me. So like in order for me to do what I'm doing, it has to be intricately okayed by heaven. And then everything about that has to be in order. It has to be. So they asked me back. And then he got promoted to pastor. And then the town has only 10,000 people in it, which is a lot compared to 500. Okay, but there's 4 high security prisons, and I can name all the criminals, I'm not, that you would know that are there or already left us. Okay, so there's 3,300 of those 10,000 incarcerated, and then the remaining people work for the prison system. But this is what I wanted to ask you. There are 29 churches that are taking care of just over 6,000 people because the others are incarcerated. So they all fight over one family. And they all have, there's 29 interpretations of Jesus. So when I get these tapes and I gotta hide them, well, it did something to me. Like, well, what are you afraid of? Like, like I've asked questions like, I've asked questions in class, and it's almost like God used to do that kind of thing. And so I'm innocent just like you would be. I'm a brand new Christian. So I asked them. They said, oh, no one's ever gotten more. Who was that guy? That guy with that white hair and the white mustache and Bayless, or not Bayless, but anyway, that one professor that was. Anyway, no one ever got an A in his class ever. And I heard about this before I even came to the college. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna crack that safe. It's just like these cassettes and these books. I'm gonna crack this safe. Like, what are they hiding? So anyway, sure enough, I got 2 questions wrong, and I purposely busted the safe with him. I purposely memorized everything. Because I wanted to come to the end of this, because it's rigged, it's obviously rigged in his favor somehow. So I walked up to him and I said, "Can I do the test?" He said, "Sure." I said, "Look here, number 7. There is no right answer." And I said, "Number 13 is the same way. The right answer is not there. So you can't get an A in your class, and you did it. And I want to know why." And he started sweating. Now, he's a missionary. He had come off the field, and he's a very smart, loving man. But I said, he said, well, and he got nervous, he teared up, and he said, if everybody got an A in my class, then they'll think I'm not doing my job, and I'll lose my job. And I'm like, what? Yeah. So those kind of things went on, and I'm like, I'm just like the new kid on the block, and I was probably not supposed to do all this stuff, but I continued to do that. I'd raise my hand, and say, well, when's the last time you had somebody raised from the dead? Because you're criticizing a man that had 37 people raised from the dead. And I would like to, and they have Smith Wigglesworth's books tucked in the back of the library. He used to be like, you know what I'm saying? Okay, so you get my point. Can I go on? Okay, so what you don't know is that one of those tapes, when I would put it in, the power of God would hit me. And I'm thinking, okay, it doesn't happen in class like this. So, like, what does this guy have? Like, what does he have? Do you understand I'm brand new? I got the Holy Spirit, but I didn't even know, like, I couldn't explain it to you. I got born again, but I couldn't tell you what it was. I just know it was really good. So do you understand me? Are you all with me? Okay, so when I put this tape in, are you ready for this? I could pray more than 10 minutes in tongues listening to this guy teach. I mean, really, so I got up to 3 hours. So that last year, I actually got up at 3, prayed till 6 in tongues, and then I fasted 2 meals a day and just ate 1 for that last year. I quit my job as a security officer for the campus, and I just sought God, and it changed my life. But every time that I would put that tape in, the power of God would hit me. Okay, so I was wondering, like, well, what is it about this person? So then they would talk bad about him, and so I tried to find out, well, why? They go, well, he taught at that Central Assembly. He came to Central Assembly, that place where they levitated, and the guy levitated, and he said this is what's going on in your life, and you need to repent right now. And nobody moved, so he goes, okay, it's in this row. He said, sir, it's you. Why didn't you stand up? And the guy starts like shaking and crying. And like a big move of God. Well, they never had him back. Okay, so you understand, I'm not even telling all of it. Okay, so anyway, I thought, well, boy, you're kidding. That's the reason why they don't have him back. He exposed sin by the Spirit of God. And things like that would happen in this guy's ministry. And so I thought, well, then I was thinking about what that demon said, about exposing hypocrisy in this church. So I'm all brand new. You got to understand, I'm just all brand new. So I'm processing all this. And I don't take what a demon says, but, obviously, I'm not blind and deaf either. Okay, so this is what happened. The other tape, I took the other tape and I put it in. And this guy says, I believe this Bible so much that you can take me over the Arizona desert and drop me off with this Bible. Just drop me out of the airplane. He said, in 3 years when you come back, I'll have a city here. I went click and turn up like, oh. Okay, do you understand, you brand new Christians? Because I'm like, I didn't even know I was supposed to be born again. Okay, but do you understand that I gave up F-16s and these 2 men just did something to me? Okay? So they started talking about this guy against him, and they even had seminars against all these people where you had to attend them for a week. I don't know if you were there with that, but they made us go for a week. And what was happening was we were sneaking off on weekends and going down to Tulsa to hear this guy. And so it was that seminar, all the students had to go. It was really us that they were, okay. All right, so this is what happened, getting back. So then when I'm at this, so after that, I had all these things happen and miracles happen to me. But when I got to Tulsa and the Lord called me, and how he called me to Tulsa was I was in my room praying in tongues, and the Lord said, I want you to sing Amazing Grace to me in the Spirit. I go, well, how do you do that? How do you do that? And he goes, well, you just use the tune to Amazing Grace and you just sing to me in tongues. And I go, isn't that misuse of tongues? I mean, it's because they would teach that where I was at. Like, you don't, like, do that. So you can't, like, pick a tune and then sing in the Spirit and call that, like, that's misuse of the gifts. Do you hear what I'm saying? Yeah. Or am I? No. Okay. All right. So, and then, so the Lord's actually asking me to break the rules of this denomination. So I did it. So when I did it, I was singing Amazing Grace in tongues. And, obviously it was pretty to the Lord because it wasn't to me. Because I was a voice major and I could sing. But you know, this other thing that was new to me, right? Okay, so this is what happened. There's a knock on my door. This is after you left. This little guy that I've never seen before is crying, and he goes, "What part of the Yucatan Peninsula are you from?" And I said, "I'm from Pittsburgh." He goes, "Well, you just sang Amazing Grace in my dialect." I go, "What is that?" And he said something, and I go, "I'm from Pittsburgh, and we don't even talk English correctly." We say yuns and creek and all this stuff, you know. And he's like totally serious. He says, "Can I come in?" And I looked, and all his luggage is in the room across from me. And he said, "So you're not from the Yucatan?" I go, "No." He said, "Even the way that your diction for my dialect," he said, "you do use the words perfectly." I go, "I was praying in tongues." And then he really starts crying. What happened was his parents sent him to the Baptist Bible College. He's a missionary son in the Yucatan. His parents sent him to the Baptist Bible College. BBC, you know, remember? Okay. While he's there, this group of guys would pray in their dorm, in their hallway, and they accidentally got filled with the Spirit and got kicked out. They did, because that's of the devil, they say. I'm serious. All right, is everybody still with me? Okay, so he's telling me all this, and I'm like, is this really happening? You know, like, dear Lord. But I felt like I had to stay that extra year and even a month after that just for him. Okay, so he tells me that he went in the Yellow Pages and he found a Spirit-filled college, and it was ours. So he called them and came and filled out an application, and he still hasn't told his parents, but he's going to attend. So they gave him a dorm room, and he was checking in, and he heard Amazing Grace being sung in his dialect. And he broke down because he thought that God had given him somebody from his own country, hometown. And I said, "No, you know, this is better than that. God is confirming that what you just received is true." Okay, so he said, "Well, say some more." And I'm thinking, well, this is misuse of tongues. You know? So I'm serious. For a whole week, he translated my tongues, not interpreted them. He translated them. So can you understand a little bit about why I am the way I am? The way I am, you know, like that was before I went and saw Jesus or anything, you know. But these things I already know. I already know that praying in tongues is very, very powerful and very effective. So he's the one. Now he doesn't know a thing, and of course he's not in the circles that we're in. So he says, the Spirit is saying that you're going to Tulsa, and there's a place called Rhema that you're going to Bible school, and it's going to lead you into abundant life. And he said, you're supposed to have actually left this morning. So we need to get you to the bus station, because if you go to 3 a.m. in the morning, you'll make it to get accepted by that college, because you're actually behind. I go, how do you know this? He says, you're saying it. The Spirit is saying it. He said, and also you're going to have a job when you get there you'll get there in the morning by 5. Now he says 5. You're going to have a job, a place to stay, and a car. And you will go to this school. So we called the Trailways bus station, and they had one seat left. It left at 3 a.m. and it was $33. And that's all I had. I had 35. So I bought the ticket, and he took me there and dropped me off. I got on the only seat was left was by this girl. And so she says, well, why are you going to Tulsa? I go, I'm going to school. She goes, Oral Roberts? I go, no, Rhema. She goes, I'm a second-year student. I'm going back to second year.
Praise the Lord.
So the only reason I'm telling this is because timing really is really everything. But the Spirit is saying things ahead of time. So she drops me off at ORU because I don't know where I'm staying. I'm just praying in tongues. And I don't have my translator anymore. But I know it's going to happen. So what I did was I stood in front of the Mabee Center with all my luggage. And the security guard goes, what are you doing? Do you need some help here? Because this is closed. And he said, are you going to attend school here? And I go, no. He goes, well, what are you doing here? And I just left the same position he was at my campus. So I'm thinking, I'm a loony, man. I'm a loony to this guy. But I have to obey God. So he said, well, no, I'm gonna go to Rhema, and I just got off the bus, and he said, well, do you know anybody in the city? Or I go, well, there's this one guy. His name was John Rood. He was my hall counselor, and he brought me here one weekend to paint houses because he had a business to make money, and I think that he lives. And I told him the street. He goes, oh, I know where that's at. I'll take you there.
Praise the Lord.
So, I kid you not, and I don't know if you remember John Rood. He had round glasses, he's looked like a professor. But he's a really nice guy. He ended up being a missionary to France, and now he's a pastor here in the States. But they take me to this house, and I knock on the door, and the security guard's right there with me. And the door opens, it's him and his wife. And they go, finally. I go, what? He goes, well, remember what you said when we graduated, you said you had to stay and get another degree. Well, you told us that you would be coming. I go, really? And they had been expecting me.
Wow.
And so they go, so you're here, you're gonna go to Rhema? And I said, yeah. They go, well, we got a place for you right here. You can just stay here. And we got a car, an extra car. And he said, you need a job because somebody quit, and I need somebody by 5 o'clock today. I'm serious. I'm not making it up. Okay, so I'm just speeding through this because this is what I want to talk about, but I'm trying to show you something here. I had to learn just like you have to learn. But the intricacies of it are so beyond, but while you're not participating in the understanding. Okay, so I worked for him for a while, and then someone that I had met on one of the excursions down for a seminar at this place, at Rhema, I had met this lady, and she worked for the Excelsior Hotel, which is right across from the convention center, which is like a 5-star hotel. And all the big, like Yonggi Cho and Benny Hinn and all those guys would come in and stay there, and then the convention center was right across the street. So I met her also, and she remembered me, and she said, well, do you need a job? Because I'll hire you right now for the hotel. What do you want? Do you want to park cars? Do you want a concierge? What do you want to do? And I said, anything. And so she got me hired. Okay, so one day, this big conference, and all these men of God and women of God, Marilyn Hickey, all these different people are coming through the lobby. And it was my turn to take the next person up. We just took turns. And so I took somebody up, and then this other guy, he comes up to me, he goes, I think you should take this guy up. I think this is one of your people. That's what he said. And I looked, and when I got close to this guy, I remember the tape. It was Benny Hinn. And he looks at me, and I look at him, and the same presence. This is what I want to tell you. You got to grasp what I'm telling you right now. The reason I do what I do, the reason why I do CDs and all the media, even Facebook Live and everything, is because it's transferable. It saves it, okay? I'm here to tell you that cassette, I wore it out. But the same thing happened to me in his presence that happened with the tape while I prayed. So he kept looking at me, he goes, so I took his stuff up, and then he calls down again, and he requests me. He said, I want Kevin to come up, I want him to meet my wife. And also, what's her name, the first daughter, honey? Sasha, yeah. So she's like a baby. Now she's like a minister. She's a little brand new. Anyway, what happened was, He walked by me the next day, and the Lord told him, talk to him. You need to spend time with this guy. He doesn't know a thing. I never told him a word about the tape. And so he didn't want to do it. So he went in the elevator and came back out, and he was mad. He said, the Lord told me I have to talk to you. He said, so be here tomorrow at 7 or forget about it. He floats off, just like Captain Hook. And I'm like, he's really short, Okay, so the next night, I'm there early and he's late. And he sat there for an hour with me, and the power of God was so strong. And he just sat there with me and imparted me, he prophesied over me. That was in 86.
Wow.
But see, it started with the tape.
Yeah.
Okay, the same thing happened. The other tape was Kenneth Copeland.
Oh boy.
And we would watch Jesse Duplantis. When I would come home from work, we would get our meal together. It came on at 5, so we'd get and me and my wife would sit and watch Jesse Duplantis just to get a laugh.
Yeah.
And then the Lord tells us, you're moving to New Orleans. And we had 2 houses that were paid off by, the people just like, you'd be jealous, so I'm not going to tell you everything because you'd be mad at me. Huh? No. Me, so like we just would write paid in full. Every time we paid mortgage, we just say paid in full in the memo. And then one day my pastor, see, this is where you got to get under authority. It's because my pastor, when he would come over to our house, because we would have like Wednesday prayer meeting at our house. And when he'd walk through the door, as soon as he'd get through the threshold of the door, he'd say, the Lord keeps telling me, every time I walk through the threshold, he says, paid in full. I go, I don't doubt that. I'm taking you somewhere. Well, listen to me. 7 years later, somebody paid our house off, and Pastor Don was there. Pastor Don right here. He saw it happen. Because I had come to him, I was actually complaining. Is there if I tell this? Every time we would try to put money on our house, because we thought, we'll just put $50 on, and this is the Jubilee, this is like we're going to cancel that, And every time that I wanted to put a bigger chunk on, like we would work so hard, and we worked for 10 years, me and my wife worked so hard. I flew my schedule, and then I flew another flight attendant schedule. So I flew 2 schedules for 10 years. I made $970,000 as a flight attendant in 10 years. Did you hear what I just said? I made $2.4 million in 29 years as a flight attendant. That's not using my faith or anything. That's just working. Okay? But this is what God did. This is what God did. I remember because, we were talking about this. I came up to the stage. I would tell him, I'm going to play this. I'm ordering a cello. I'm going to play the cello. And he would watch it I would get it in the mail. I would pull it out. And then I'd come to him and say, I'm ready. And he goes, what? I go, I'm ready for Sunday. Like I did that with the guitar and with the cello and the flute and the saxophones. He watched me. Right? He watched it happen. So I come up to him and I say, because the Lord just told me to pay somebody's mortgage for the month and then buy somebody a set of tires. And I told him, I said, at this rate, the way that the Lord keeps telling me, I said, I went to say, I'm never going to pay my house off. Because he keeps telling me to. And I stopped, and he just looked at me because the Spirit wouldn't let me say that. Okay, well, the next week, we got notification that somebody paid our house off. So I didn't have to pay the house off. Me and my wife didn't have to. God did. Okay, so that happened twice. And I'm not going to tell you the rest because you guys would all be mad. No, maybe tonight if I get brave. Here's the point. Here's the point, though. That so then he tells us to sell both of those beautiful houses and go to New Orleans where they have alligators. And to make a long story really short, we would actually just a bit Tobago we had to pay. So we have 2 houses, and we work full time. We both work really hard. And I'm flying to work. Like I'm flying to work and then I have to fly for a week and then fly back home and then get in a car and go to my house. So it's planes, trains, and automobiles for. But the reason I'm telling you this is because we had to actually rent a hotel. So like God could do things, and you think he's missing himself. He's missing God. God's missing God, as my spiritual father says. Jesse will say, God, are you feeling okay? Because you just told me to give $100,000 to somebody. Are you okay? So we paid for a hotel for sometimes a week and a half and a rental car. And we didn't know why. We would just pray in tongues in that hotel. Me and my wife. And then we turn the car in, get on a plane, and go back up to Phoenix or Seattle and work. And we do it every month. And we didn't know why. And then he told us to go tour Jesse Duplantis' ministry. So we did. When we got past the office where Jesse is, he comes out. And he shakes our hand. And then he won't let go of my hand. And then he pulls his wallet out. And the Lord's speaking to him, says, he hands it to the guy that's giving the tour. He said, you take care of this couple. And the guy goes, he never does that. Because, all these big names come in. And, well, anyway, to make it really short, then later on we get a call. And the caller ID says Kathy Duplantis. So what had happened was, that was on a Sunday. We were in a hotel. I believe that. No, we weren't in a hotel. We were in our house by that time, right? Okay. Friday night, we went to an auction they were raising money for the mission. They wanted to build some buildings and expand the cafeteria and everything in New Orleans. There's a lot of homeless. So we were invited to go to that, and I don't know why, but we went. And during that time, they were auctioning off different things. And so one of them was Emerald, the cook, that's on TV, and he was going to be coming to your house and cooking for 15 people if you bid for it and won, So they started out $2,200, and I was just like done. I said, Lord, I don't want to even be here. And what are we doing here? And you understand what I'm saying? I don't know what God's doing. So I said, I'd rather have Jesse Duplantis come to my house and preach to me than Emerald come and cook. Like, what am I even doing here? Cajun food, it's just a lot of spices and butter. And then you take everything and fry it. And that's what it's Cajun. I'm serious. They do pickles and everything. Okay, I'm getting somewhere with this. That call, so I said that Friday night at 9 o'clock at the auction. On Sunday, my phone rings and it's Kathy Duplantis. And the pastor had given them our number for the church that's there. And she said, God just spoke to Jesse, and we're supposed to take you to lunch, and we want to spend some time with you. And I'm thinking all the millions of people, they're like, whoa. So we get the P.F. Chang's, this Chinese restaurant, and he sits down, and the power of God hits him, and he starts preaching to us. And it's like almost like everybody's looking. He's preaching. He goes, I can't stop. It went on for 3 hours. Wow. And he said, I can't stop. Because he doesn't know what I said Friday night. So I'm trying to tell you something here. There is a point of no return. You've passed that. So now you've got to watch your words. And when you pray, you've got to remember that you're speaking mysteries in the Spirit. You're speaking your tomorrow. When you pray in the Spirit, you're talking about your tomorrow. And the Holy Spirit's talking about what's going to happen. Are you getting it? So he said, you know what? Let's go over your house and dedicate your house. We had just moved in. So anyway, we all go over there. He gets in the house and it hits him again. He starts preaching. I'm not kidding you. He was preaching like you'd see him on TV. And his wife's like, man. He goes, what has God in me? He says, I just preached last night in Texas. I flew in and then preached this morning at my church, and now I'm preaching in your house. I just preached in PFJ. It went on for 2 more hours. I'm not kidding you. And then all of a sudden it hit me. How did he get from the TV into my house? I'm going somewhere with this. Because you got to watch what you say, and you got to watch when you get caught up in what God's doing, then you realize how valuable you are. And how intricate things. I mean, think a little Baptist boy. He's never going to forget that from the Yucatan. Me, that little kid that left everything, Benny Hinn sitting with me for an hour, and he said to me, I have never been able to tell what I'm about to tell you. Never. He said, the Lord told me that you're 1 in a million. He said, are you ready? Are you ready? He said, he told me things. I said, are you sure? He goes, I'm telling you. He's never told anyone else this. I've watched him. I listened to everything he's ever said. He never talks about what he told me. And that was in 86. But it's all coming to pass right now.
Amen.
See, it's all intricate and working. But see, it can be in a tape. It can be in a book.
Yeah.
It could ignite something that's your destiny.
Amen.
Okay, so when it hit me that, okay, all I said is, I don't want emerald. And I threw something out there to God that's impossible. Because you can't even get close to Jesse. I mean, he's got armed bodyguards. Like, people are crazy, so he's got to have all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's amazing. So I looked at him, and he's in our prayer room now, because he said, where do you want me to dedicate the house? And we're all in a circle, and I'm looking at Kathy, and I'm thinking, is this really happening? Because I'm thinking, just months ago, we're watching him on TV as entertainment, like while we're eating, I mean, it's the Word of God too, but you understand. Every now and then we need a laugh, right? Okay. And this is what happened to me. It hit me. He's in my house, and he likes me. Because, you hear his stories, and I'm thinking, am I one of those crazy people that he always talks about? So feel the flow of the Spirit here, because I'm taking you someplace right now. I said to him, see, what he doesn't know that my wife knows is that when we went down there, they called me, my doctor in Phoenix called me, that my test came back, and we had just finished an 8-mile run. And he said, get to the emergency room right now. You're in kidney failure.
Oh no.
He said, are you okay? I go, I just ran 8 miles. I'm fine. I can't even feel my body right now. They said, you're in failure and your liver. And as soon as you check in, have them call. I go, I'm going to New Orleans tomorrow. My future's in New Orleans. My destiny's down there. That's what I said. I said, I'll check in down there, but I'm not checking in. I'm not going to the hospital. My future is in New Orleans. Because the Lord had spoken to us. And so, what Jesse didn't know this, but I was in kidney failure. And I didn't check into them when I got down there. I said, I'll submit to another test. And then you let me know when it's normal, when it comes back normal. And I mean, there was a lot of alarming. There was alarming. My heart would stop too. So Kathy would call me back. I would come home from work and my heart would stop. I could feel the blood stop. And my spirit would start to leave my body. And she would come over and start screaming. I could hear her screaming in tongues, even though it was real far away because I was out of my body almost. And she would command me to come back, and I would come back. So there's something wrong with my heart too, but they couldn't find what was wrong. There was something wrong with it. So anyway, I said to Jesse, they said, how did you get from the TV to my living room? And he said, God set it up. This is a setup. And I said, well, just speak the word and I will be healed. I have 3 incurable diseases. And he said, you were sick and now you're healed. And that's what he said from 6 feet away. And when he said it, Then the next morning I woke up and everything's gone. I went back and got tests and completely healed. But see, no one touched me. And the Lord appeared to me. Are you ready for this? The Lord appeared to me the next day, so 48 hours later, Tuesday. He appears to me. You know what he said to me? You should have asked for more. You know what he said? He said, you should have asked for your hair back. That's what he did. He said it. That's what he said. So this just happened a couple of years ago, so you have to understand something, that I'm still expanding. I'm still learning. My perimeters, my boundaries are expanding. And Jesus is doing it. But he's using people. He's inserting people into our lives daily that will expand us and cause us to think beyond the boundaries that were set for us. So you think about what I said about Kenneth Copeland, about being dropped out of an airplane, and about Benny Hinn, how I don't understand, he was just talking on a tape, but created an atmosphere where I was free. Now, I have nothing bad to say about anyone. Because if you were there on that couch, you wouldn't have anything bad to say either. Regardless of what has happened or might have happened, you got to understand something. That man, he told me, he said, you're going to have everything you want, Kevin, but you're going to die. You're going to die to get it. It's going to cost you everything. He says, you're going to have it. And I want to tell you what he said, because you'd be jealous. But there are people in my life that I don't know how they got there. So when we're on Jesse Duplantis' jet and we're traveling with him, I don't know how I got there. And I asked him that. He goes, you're my son. Everything I have is yours. I go, what? He goes, well, what do you want? Do you want this jet? Do you need money? I go, no. I just want to be your friend. He says, you want to work for me? Do you want me to be my pilot? I go, no, I don't want to be a pilot. I want to be a friend. Do you want to be a pastor? I said, no. I'm not called to be a pastor. I said, I just want to be your friend. And he goes, well, then you shall have it. What do you want to do? I said, I want to have a school. I want to be on TV. I want to write books. And I want to travel. He goes, then that's what you're going to have.
Amen.
And he took me to TBN. He ordained me. Sid Roth was watching TBN, called me, and never let go of me. He's never let go of me. I think I have the record for the most appearances on Sid Roth. In 1 year, I was down there 6 times. And I was a flight attendant. And they couldn't figure it out. They couldn't figure me out, so that they were watching me to try to, I think they were trying to replicate it and bottle it or something. Because they're trying to figure it out. How I had the most views of any show, and I was a flight attendant. And of any big boy, anybody you could name, and they couldn't figure it out, so they would have meetings. They would have meetings to try to figure it out. And you know what they came up with? This guy has no agenda. And he's touchable. I go, yeah, I'm Kevin. I speak in tongues. And so Jesse told me, he said, listen, you got to find your track. He said, Kevin, don't ever lose your track. God gave you. He said, this, what you say, he said, this is a word of knowledge. He just told me last week. He said, the word of knowledge is never lose what God gave you. You are a flight attendant that plays in tongues. That's your track. Because then it keeps you in the loop. It doesn't eliminate you. I wish I could be a prophet. I wish I could be an apostle. See, it doesn't. I'm telling you these stories. So this is what I want to tell you. That wasn't even what I want to tell you. This is what I want to tell you. Now hold on, because these are story time. I'm trying to glorify. I'm glorifying Jesus in these situations so that you can get this. You can get this, and you can walk like this. This is better. You have to understand that the steps of a righteous man are ordered by the Lord. They really are. They're actually numbered. So it's like follow the number. Like your left foot. Think about this. How do you explain how I was on a plane with Kathy on her birthday going to Seattle, and an angel came down the aisle grabbed me and took me back to the day of Enoch. And I watched us leave the airplane. My wife was still sitting on the airplane. And I went back thousands of years before the flood. And I was in a wooded area that went to a clearing, and there he was, Enoch, walking. And the power of God enveloped him. And I saw his left foot, it was planted, and he went to put his right foot down in front of him, and he stepped into the other realm.
Oh.
And his foot disappeared, but I could still see his left foot. And the power of the resurrection wrapped around him and took him. And that power, it ripped the air around that area. It ripped it, and because it had the Holy Spirit had to encapsulate him like a blanket, wrap him up, and then usher him into God. See, I mean, he's up there with his body. You have no idea what kind of power it takes to do that. To take a person, Elijah's the other person. So when that happened, the power that came off of Enoch came back and hit me and the angel and almost knocked us over. And I don't know if I'm in the body or out of the body. I don't even know. And it doesn't matter. If they have a forum about it, I won't show up because I'm not going to talk about it. That's not what's important here. So the same thing happened with Elijah. It took me ahead a couple thousand years, and then he was in a chariot. He was getting into this fiery chariot, and there was this whirlwind, and there was this bright, same thing, okay, came back and hit us. And he said, you wanted to know what the powers of the coming age are, because in Hebrews it talks about the powers of the coming age as being one of the things that we experience, and if we would trample underfoot the blood of Jesus after encountering these things. One of them was the powers of the coming age, and I think, well, what is that? That sounds really good. And so that's what the angel was sent for. I was praying about that. And when he brought me down, he announced, he said, behold, the powers of the coming age. It's the resurrection. And I always thought these different things about resurrection. But what if God would just decide to take you and he broke all your rules? And he did it anyway. And he did it, it was so profound that you can't even tell your friends because it would just be really bad for you. Right? And the more you explain it, the deeper you feel you're in it, and you just want to stop and cut your losses. Okay? Well, that's what God wants to do to all of us. He wants us to get to the place where we can't even tell our friends what's going on. So, I go to this school 1 year in Rhema at somebody translating my tongues, which is totally against most denominations. Okay, so this guy knows what I'm saying. That's his language, but I don't know it. But yet, I know, I can call people right now who have been in Russia, who have been in Mexico, and when people get filled in the Spirit, they speak English.
Yeah.
So now you understand what I'm trying to say? That's supernatural too, but not to us. That's our language. Okay, so do you understand that the supernatural is really something you can't do? So you got to give God permission to do what you can't do, and you need to get over yourself. You need to get over your weaknesses. You need to get over the fact that you have boundaries, because that is the quickest way into the supernatural is when you realize you're done, you end. And the faster you get there, the better. You have to count the cost. So are you going to do that right now in this service, or are you going to wait until I come back next year? Right. Okay, so what you have to do is you have to get your heart ready. Here's what happened to me. So I went that 1 year at Rhema, and I had 3 jobs. I had 3 jobs and a car, and I went to Rhema for a year. And if gas went up from 99 cents to $1.03, and I was in the red on my budget. That's how tight it was. And I worked 3 jobs. I witnessed to the Denny waiter, and he got saved. So I asked him to come outside later, and he got filled with the Spirit. So I said, well, I need to get out of where I'm staying because these people were partying and stuff like that. I said, well, you can just stay at my house for the night. The next morning he was gone, and so was my tuition money. So then the police found him, and he said, well, he's got your tuition money, and he's bought a brand new scooter with it. Do you want us to bring him in or whatever? I said, no, you know what? So I had to work extra just to stay at that school that God called me to in towns. So do you understand? Like, I'm telling you this because when something bad happens, you got to realize something, that sometimes stuff happens. But it's okay. God provided for me. I had people give me money. So I finished that year. In July, I was at the pool on my day off, and I had a dream. And in the dream, I'm ready to do the second year at Rhema. I've already done my 4 years with Lane back there and everything. So now I'm trying to show you how intricate things are. I had a dream, and I don't really dream, but I had a dream that I walked up to an airplane at the Tulsa airport, and it was a Southwest Airlines airplane. I've never been on it. And I've only flown once because I couldn't afford to fly. So my parents paid for TWA to take me home for one day because my grandma did for 1 year. That's the only time I flew. So in the dream, I walked up to the cockpit and the window slid open, which I didn't know happened, but it actually does. So if you're hijacked on the ground, the pilots can get out, so then they can't fly the plane. But nobody knows that. So he opens that window and peeks his head out, and this captain, I mean, I got a clear look at him. I mean, he's 9 feet in the air, but he's right there, 4 feet up from me. And he says, I hear you're coming to work for us. And in the dream, I said, yeah, I'll be there in 2 years. Now, this is July of '86, okay? In July of '88, I got hired with Southwest Airlines. I mean, to the month. But see, I'm not participating. Are you getting this? I wasn't participating in my understanding. Just like when you pray in tongues. It says that your mind doesn't comprehend because your spirit prays out mysteries. Because you're not talking to people, you're talking to God. Okay? You need to bask in His presence right now. This is what happened to me. So he says, okay, we'll see you then. Right. Meantime, that year, I get asked to travel with Kenneth Hagin because I was friends with all the singers in the band. And I was a voice major. So they heard me sing, and I tried out, and they said, well, you just come back. You got to meet with a lady named Lynette. And you meet with her, and if she feels okay about it, you're in. And you're pretty much in. You just need to meet with her. So I'm walking down this hallway, and the Lord says to me audibly, what are you doing? You notice that He says that to me a lot? See, I'm showing you my vulnerability here so that you can understand. You're doing fine. We all go through this. But your steps are ordered. What I mean by that, they are numbered. Each stone has a number on it. I'm telling you, I can't tell you how I know this, because then you would actually believe me if I told you that like a supernatural event happened. Then you're like, well, weird, you know. But if I just tell you that it's a scripture verse, oh, it's just a scripture verse, you know. Like, you mean an angel didn't tell you, you know? Okay. I said, well, I'm going to be with the Rhema Singers. And he goes, do you remember the dream I gave you? Do you remember I've been telling you that you need to put your application in for Southwest Airlines? And it hit me and I started crying. Has anybody ever been hit by the Lord when you knew that there was a change coming and you knew you got hit and you started crying? That's what happened to me. So I turned around and I walked out and I went and got an application at the airport, filled it out, and I put it in. And I didn't hear anything back. So, are you ready for this?
Yes.
No, you're not, because you're not ready for this. Okay, so I'm working at this hotel on the Southwest cruise. It's part of my job was to take care of them. So I would go pick them up, and I got to know them. And so this one day, this pilot comes up to my podium at the Doubletree Hotel, and because Doubletree built that Excelsior out that I was working at, and then they asked me to come out for management training to this one, and then I was going to go back and be a manager there. So then the Lord said, you're not going to do that, you're going to Southwest. And I said, no, I'm not. I'm going to be a Rhema Series. No, you're not. You're going to Southwest Airlines. And so I was going through all this. And I didn't want to, and I thought, well, and because he told me I'm not going to be a pilot, you're going to be a flight attendant. I go, for sure, this is not God. I'm going to be a flight attendant. You got to be kidding me. I gave up F-16s and now I'm going to serve drinks on a flight. No, I'm serious. You have no idea what torment it was for 29 years. You have no idea. No, you don't. You think you do? You don't. Because I understand every one of you, because I had to deal with 800 people a day. They were in an atmosphere where they had no control. And so you can imagine. Okay, you know what it's like is you've been there. And it's crazy. You know, what happens on an airplane. So anyway, this pilot, the pilot that was in the dream, walks up to the podium and he says to me, are you the one that applied for Southwest Airlines? And I said, yes. He said, well, what are you doing still here? He said, you're perfect. I said, well, I haven't heard back from him. He goes, well, I'll take care of that. I mean, this is the guy in the dream that stuck his head out, the captain. Are you getting this? Do I need to say it again? Testing. That guy, he goes, well, I know the personnel manager, and I'm actually based in Dallas, and that's where the personnel is. I walk right by her desk. She will call you tomorrow.
Amen.
And I had the job.
Amen.
Now, here, you think that's easy, but it wasn't easy because they had, are you ready for this? They had 31 positions open up. That's 3 airplanes. So they have 3 shifts, so it's 3 airplanes. So they had 31 slots. 750 Barbie dolls applied were in my interview. Did you hear what I just said? They were all perfect. I spent an hour trying to find something wrong. Nothing wrong. And so I had to stand up as Ken. But I had hair, I had hair. And I'm thinking, okay, do you understand what I'm saying? Is I had a dream. I didn't even want to do this. So I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be easy. I'm going back. So I'm thinking, I'm going to call Ray Jean. I'm going to say, I'm in, you know, at the Rhema Singers. It's like, you got to be kidding me. So I got chosen. Are you ready for this? Yeah. So I show up in another city for the second interview, and the 2 people, they're ganging up on me. There's going to be 2 people interviewing me, and they just sit there and stare at me and smile. And it was like really long, even though it was 30 seconds. But see, it's the Lord. The Lord is in this. And so there's all these people. So 750 people interviewed for 31 positions. And they told me when I quit that there was over 61,000 applicants for my job when I retired. In the bank. It was like one of the most wanted jobs, period, in the world. And it is a really good job. But this is what happened. They said to me, you probably wonder what we're doing. I go, well, yeah. They go, well, you're already hired, but they're not to know that line of people out there. You have some friends in very high places. And so we have to sit there and talk about whatever you want, but you already got hired. They just file a question. They had a file of a stack of like 15 to 20 recommendation letters. The flight attendants had recommended me, and I didn't even know it. They had written letters that were put in my file. So anyway, I got the job. But see, the Lord knew it way ahead of time. And so I worked at that job for 29 years. So this is what I wanted to get to as we close. I read the scripture here. I also have plenty of scriptures. You see, the Spirit of God, he knows the future. He knows things. He's our comforter. He's our counselor. So like what it says in John 14:26, talking about he's our counselor, our helper, our intercessor, advocate, strengthener, and standby. The Father's going to send him. He's one like me. Actually, one translation says. So he's like Jesus. He's a person. And he wants to help you along in your way. But we treat him as a bird, and we treat him as someone who is really not relating to us. But he really does. And he's speaking things to you right now. He's showing you things right now, but you are trying to discern it mentally. And it's not working. It doesn't work that way. God is not a mind, so he doesn't speak to you in your mind. He's not a body, so he doesn't speak to your body. He's a spirit. Spirit to spirit. The flesh is weak, but the spirit is willing. So, I wanted to quit. The first day at my job, I wanted to quit. And every day I asked the Lord to let me quit for 29 years. I would go into the laboratory and cry. And I would ask the Lord to help me. Because I'm just not made for this kind of exposure with people where you have no idea. But maybe you do. But 800 a day that I'll never see again, ever. So I said, Lord, what's going on here? Because I just got invited to Italy and Germany, and I can't work anymore, and you haven't told me I can quit. And you spoiled me because the way that I got this job was so supernatural, and you're not releasing me. And he would not talk to me. And so one day, and this is what I want you to take to your car with you. One day I go, oh, see, because what happens is after a while, you start to get to know the personality of God, and you start to understand his ways, not just his acts. I don't look for his acts. I don't look for his manifestation. That's what Israel did. But it says Moses knew his ways. Well, he got up on the mountain. I started to know God's ways, and he's speaking to you right now. Instead of calling you out individually, I'm going to do this in the whole room. But this is what God is saying. Thus saith the Lord. This is what he's saying to you right now. I started to see his ways, and this is what the Lord was doing. I said, oh, I get it, Lord. And there's silence. I said, you know what? I know what's going on here. I know why you're not talking to me. I said, so you know what? I'll stay another 10 years. I'll just go ahead and reorder my uniforms, and I'm fine. We're good. 39 years I'll put in instead of 29. And right like that, audibly, he said, you can retire right now. See what I'm saying? Did you catch what I just did? You just have to be willing, but you have to mean it. He just wanted to know that Abraham would raise that knife over Isaac. He wanted to know that he wouldn't withhold what God had given him. That's all he wanted to know. So, when he said that, I went to Jesse. Because Jesse said, you're not quitting. You're not supposed to quit. So I went a whole year because Jesse didn't feel like I should quit. And God wasn't telling me to quit. But it was obvious all this stuff was happening to me. Just like things happen to me. You got to discern. It's not about what's happening. It's about what God's saying. Because you got to know him intimately and hear his voice. So it might be contrary in your life. But I'm prophesying that it's going to clear up. It's going to clear up quickly because this morning you've heard what I'm saying here. It's, you're going to, I'm just saying by the Spirit of the Lord, you're going to get your conference center because you were willing. You were willing to let it out. I'm saying it by the Spirit of God. I'm saying it by the Spirit of God that you see, it's your walk with God personally. The Lord told me, I didn't want to do this. I wanted to teach. But the Lord told us, you share stories this morning and let them walk with you so that they can learn how to do this. That's better. They know the scriptures. That's what he told me. I said, Lord, this is a risk because I'm a teacher and I like to teach. Get into the Greek and the Hebrew and the Homebrew and everything, That's when people just think things up, you know. They call it scholarship. It's called homebrew. You know what I'm talking about. Okay, so I went to Jesse. Now, I preface it. He starts laughing when I start prefacing stuff because he knows exactly what I'm doing. I said, Jesse, I just want you to know that things, I really feel like I'm supposed to, that I'm supposed to quit now. I'm supposed to retire. And, you know, he said, you know, and he looks at me and he goes, yeah, that's right. You're done. I am, really? He goes, yeah, you're done. Okay, so he says that we're at a meal. He's preaching that night in town. So we leave the restaurant, he's got to go get ready, and then it's a church, we know everybody, so we're going to go. I kid you not, we spent an hour with the GPS. It would not take us to that church. We tried everything, and we live in the town. It would take us to this empty field, because we've never been there before. It was in another town, but we lived near that town. Okay, we tried 3 different ways of doing it, and we tried her phone, my phone, we turned them off, started them up, we did everything. We just went home. We went home. It was March 16th, I think. Yeah. So, are you ready for this? We get home, and the most accurate prophet on the earth. The most accurate. He is the most accurate. Did I say he was the most accurate? He is a pastor for 40 years. He doesn't want anyone to know him. He doesn't want to be known. He calls us. And the only reason he knows us is because the Lord spoke to me, gave me his name, and told me to tell Sid Roth, you need to call him and tell him this. This is going to happen. And he needs a miracle to come, or this is going to happen. Amen. And told him, I was very specific, times and dates. Well, Sid calls me back, and he said, what you just said just happened, and he wants to meet you. So then we became friends. So we're on the phone talking, and he goes, hey, just so you know, I'm still fasting and praying about when you're supposed to quit Southwest. And when he says that, he goes, wait a minute, you're already supposed to quit. You're supposed to quit right now. So he doesn't know anything. Isn't it good to have somebody like that in your life? I'm trying to tell you something, because God's going to do that for you. He's going to put people in your life. Okay, so we're sitting there. Now, this guy, I have to tell you, can you give me 5 more minutes? Yeah. Okay, here's why. You have to hear how he got to be how he was. Okay. He walked by a guy named Benny Hinn one day, and Benny Hinn did the same thing to him that he did to me. Not only that, this guy had miracles happen in his church. So like people would fly in, like the head of like Hughes, the satellite people and all that. The wife is dying of terminal cancer. He doesn't even really believe this way, but he brings his wife in as a last ditch effort, and she gets healed of cancer. Flies her in a private jet. This guy, Keith Ellis, he goes, she's healed. This is the guy, this biker dude sitting up here, and he says, you sir, you got cancer on your far ear over there. He said, you're healed in Jesus' name. And you could hear it fall off and drop. He comes running up and gets saved. He's not even saved. The lady goes, you ma'am, you got cancer in your stomach. He says, you're healed, and a power of God hits her. She falls on the ground. They put like one of the cloths over her. And he's standing up there just watching it. The whole congregation watches a hand up underneath there, takes the tumor out and lays it beside her. The whole congregation sees this. This is the kind of guy this is, okay? But you know how he got that way? His connection was one day, he said, he said, I was preaching and I look back and this guy walks in. His name's Bob Jones. And he has this piece of paper because God gave him the address and his phone number. And told him to go and meet this Keith Ellis. God gives him, did you hear it? I need to repeat it. See, there's a transference going on there. So, Bob Jones, before he dies, adopts this guy and grooms him and says, oh, by the way, there's this couple, this young couple, and they're coming into your life, and they're the second line for me. And starts prophesying about me and Kathy coming into his life. And it happened. And then he dies. So then me and Keith are friends now. So he calls me and he says, it's right now. And he doesn't know a thing that Jesse's just said that and God has just told me. Quick. Okay, are you following me? That's how intricate your lives are, because you don't know it. You think it's random that you're in the middle of a cornfield. No, it has nothing to do with the cornfield. It has everything to do with the word of the Lord for you in this hour. And discerning, and he's speaking to you right now. He's visiting you right now. I'm telling you, I'm not messing around, because I do this in front of 31,000 people as well as I can do it in a cornfield. It doesn't matter to me. It's the same Spirit. It's the same God that we serve. It doesn't matter to me. I'll talk to a waiter. Okay? I'll prophesy to him, and he doesn't even believe that way yet. Yet. But see, you act as though they do, and then they do. You just treat them like God wants to treat them. Okay, so this is what happens. When he says that, my phone, I look at my phone, because he says, I see 3 keeps coming to me. 3. And you know, these prophets, they're like that. So he goes 3. And the glory of God is hitting us. And Kathy, like, we're like looking at each other like, he goes, it's right now. And when he did, I look at my phone, and my employee number is the time. It's 11:57. And my employee number is 11577. So it's 11:57, it's 1157. And I just add a 7 to it, that's my employee number. He says it's right now. You're supposed to quit right now. He says it in my employee number. He said, but I see 3. What is the 3 minutes? What's the 3? Well, Bob Jones, before he died, he prophesied that at midnight on the 17th of March, that the glory of God would come back to the church. Well, it's 3 minutes till the 17th of March. It's 57 on the 16th, or whatever the date was. Is that right? I think I'm right. Okay. He goes, what does that mean? I go, Keith, remember what Bob said? The glory's coming back on the 17th. It's 3 minutes to 12. He goes, whoa! And he's like, the glory hits us. He goes, I see 3 doves, and I see 3 bottles of ketchup. Does anybody know what Keith Ellis is? He is the most precious man that, I mean, he is spot on. He has called me and said, you need to go to your mailbox right now. Tells us what's in the mailbox, the date the check was written, and who it's from. So you need to go now, and that's the little one. The big one's coming next week. And it did. I had a $56,000 check come the next week. This was for $16,000. Oh yeah, all those zeros as a flight attendant that doesn't even have a board or a pulpit. But God knew my address. He knows my wife's address. Do you understand what I'm saying? No, I don't think you get it. You should be rejoicing right now, because I'm just like you. I'm not one of the big boys, but in heaven I'm known. I'm known by my faith. I'm known by how I walk, because I know the ways of God, not his acts. I don't seek after the diamonds and the gold dust. It comes because I walk with him. Okay, so listen to this. The glory is so strong that he can't talk and I can't talk. We actually crawled to our room. I'm in Phoenix, Arizona, and I'm preaching at the Dream Center, the prayer pavilion up on the top of the hill. And he texts me, he goes, don't forget the white doves, the 3 white doves. I'm not kidding you. So I go out to speak, and it's this, there's tens of thousands of people all over the world that watch this. And they have me every time I come, and they say, whenever you come in, you're doing this prayer, you're leading the prayer. And so I get up there, and as I'm talking just like this, and the power of God is so strong, and all of a sudden, I hear screaming outside, and then people start running outside. And they come in and they have this picture of 3 white doves flying around the building. And doves don't fly at night. And there are no white doves.
Right.
If you see something white, it's a pigeon, but there's no white doves, you know. So I'm like, hey, how does he know this stuff? So because of that, we took some of the money and we sent him an offering. And when we sent it to him, we put it in a nice card. And he loves Subway sandwiches, so we buy him cards and stuff like that because he loves these Subway sandwiches. So, are you ready for this? I'm trying to show you something here. I don't know if you're following me the whole way through this, but okay, he has connections. That the reason why he is where Keith is because someone else who walked in this on steroids. Bob Jones is on steroids spiritually, you know. And but it's even bigger than that. So he goes out to his mailbox, and I kid you not, just like all these other stories, as soon as he reaches in there to get all his mail, his finger touches our red envelope with that card in it, and the power of God hits him. And so he goes and he looks, and it's from us. And as he's looking at it, he's like, oh, you know, they sent me a card. This truck pulls up behind him, and it's this other prophet that lives about 2 hours away. This guy drove 2 hours. Are you ready for this? He gets out of his truck and hands him 3 bottles of ketchup and gets back in his truck and pulls out. I'm not kidding you. I'm like, honey. The guy doesn't say anything else to him. He said, the Lord told me to give these to you. Drives 2 hours back home. Okay, so do you understand? Like when God tells you to do something, do you realize what it's doing? There's people being affected by that. So the word of the Lord comes to him, so he calls me. And he says, thus saith the Lord. He said the 3 bottles of ketchup represent this. Kevin, God says, I'm catching you up for the 29 years that you gave to Southwest Airlines. Kathy, I'm catching you up for the 29 years that you left the mission field and had a business, a hair business. I'm catching you up those 29 years. And he prophesies to himself, and Keith, he says, I'm catching you up for the 39 years that you pastored, because now you're going to the world.
Yeah.
So there's nobody greater than Keith at the time, so he just prophesied to himself. You understand what I'm saying? It's a play on a scripture, don't worry about it. God didn't have anybody to swear by in a covenant, so he swore by himself. So anyway, I hope this has helped you. Okay, because you have to understand something, that what you see on the surface is not the real thing. It's the intricate workings of God's plan and his destiny for your life. And he wants to give you things, but there's a step of obedience that has to happen in order to initiate it. And it might be a dream, it might be a word, it might be something that happens to you with a scripture where it comes out. With me, it's scripture. So, like a word will just stand out to me. So that's why I just eat the scripture every day. I just spend time thinking about it, and I just concentrate on one word. But the thing is that the Lord just told me there's so many financial miracles are going to happen in this place. I mean, with you. I mean, it's because of my obedience to tell you. And you have to understand, you're like, you in public you'll say, oh, you know, it's not about the money. But in private, it is about the money. It's all about the money.
obey the Lord. I have never, ever, God is my witness, I have never, ever done this, okay? And he said, what did he say? I got my note put away, the don't, please, my mind don't go to blank, okay? So, so anyway, he said when you obey the Lord, well, how do you say it affects people, right? I'm sitting here and he begins to give his testimony about that guy from some place, you sing Amazing Grace, you know. Okay, so look, I was going to read out of that portion last night. Obviously, Lord did not want me to read because my mind totally went blank. I could not, I mean, there was nothing in my brain. I'm sorry. I mean, there was nothing in my brain. I couldn't think, I couldn't remember anything. So like, I guess I got short-circuited by God's power or whatever, you know. So, I mean, normally I don't have a problem talking, okay. So anyway, some of the things he talked about, it's in this book. You gotta read it. You gotta read this one, okay? So anyway, it's in this one, but what I'm saying is I have never, ever done this. Meaning is that we only took offering, okay? And that was for our church tithe and offering, and then, you know, some of you guys gave towards, you know, Kevin and Kathy's, you did. But as sitting there, I felt like the Lord said, some of you guys didn't give, or some of you guys gave and really didn't give what you're supposed to give. Or after he begins to share about his testimony about how he gave it all and God just blessed him back more than beyond he could possibly imagine. People come and pay off of his house and then another one and you know, all these things. And your heart's been stirred because God's speaking to you and you know, you want to do that. So please, I'm not saying that to manipulate you. I am not saying to do anything. I'm just trying to obey God. And so, you know, this never happened. And Kevin actually never even talked about prophesying anything like that about, he kept on talking about, you know, the multiplying blessing and all of that. You know, I'm just trying to obey God. So if you don't think it's God, please don't do it. But if it's God, I believe that I am speaking the truth. That some of you guys, when are sitting there, you have been stirred. You know that God has spoken to you. You did not give like you were supposed to, or you gave, but God is speaking to you, give more. God is my witness. I have never done this. And the people who know me, they know that I don't do this. I never do this. So there is right there, trunk right there. If you want to do that, you go ahead and play a little bit, you know, and rejoice or whatever you want to play that one. But if you want to do that, if you have been stirred, that you, or you know, you wanted to give, and that you have been praying for breakthrough, and you know what? And so we're going to do this, and please, you know, just be obedient for us, or just I don't even feel funny doing this because I'm just trying to obey God. Amen. And so I feel like this is your time. Don't miss your divine appointment of visitation from the Lord. Sometimes we look at it like, you know, His presence, but all of us need money. We all need a breakthrough. But there is such a thing as a God sometimes just release something supernatural. And like I said, I'm not your provider. I am not. Don't look to me, okay? And I can stand here and tell you testimony after testimonies of us being faithful and obedient, how God supernaturally did. So if, like I said it before, I'm going to say again, if, you know, that if you don't think this is of God, it doesn't win this in your spirit, I don't want you to do it. But those of you know that you sit there, I wish I would have gave. Or I want to give more. You know that was God. And then Kevin says that, like, you know, then I think he talked about going on and something else. And he comes back money and didn't finish it with the dead guy say, yeah, it is about money. I said, okay, God, I will obey. Okay? So here, go ahead. And then we're going to, yeah. Oh, yeah, please do.
I've just been, all through,
I'm supposed to talk, and I'm like, okay, this is not my church, not my meeting. All right. I just want to share something with you because it's so important that you grab what he was saying today. And I feel like I was supposed to share this to help you. I knew Kevin and Kathy before anybody knew them, before their name was big, before they were anyone big or whatever they are now. He's still a flight attendant who speaks in tongues, right? I was the worship pastor at the church that they attended. And, all the stuff he talks about as instruments, that's all true. I sat and watched it happen. But I'm not, you hear him talk and you hear him talk about, you think, oh, he's just name dropping. He's not name dropping. He's not. He's sharing because he wants you to understand that he came from a place where he didn't know anybody and he didn't have any special, wasn't born into some family where everybody knew his name. That's not where he comes from. He comes from Pittsburgh. You understand? He comes from where you're at. Where we're all at. Just a person who's following God. And I watched him follow God. I watched them follow God after being rejected by people that shouldn't have rejected them. I watched them follow God and continue to do what God told them to do, even after things were said that weren't true about them, even after people that didn't recognize the gift in them. I knew the gift in them because I spent time with them. So I just want you to know that he's speaking right from who he is. And I want to share, can I share? I'm sorry, I know time. When the Lord told us to move from where we were to where we are now, I went away for a 3-day fasting and prayer, spent some time with the Lord, and the Lord gave me some very direct things, showed me visions and so forth. And I hadn't spoken to Kevin or Kathy about anything, and we hadn't really spent any time with them for about a year, actually, roughly. And I was driving into town from this place that I had gone. And I just called him. The Lord said, call Kevin. So I picked up the phone, I called him, and I said, are you in town? And it was a Monday, and he wasn't usually in town on Monday. And I picked up the phone, and I said, are you in town? And he said, yeah, I'm just getting done with my run. You want to stop? And I said, yeah. So I pulled up to the house, and I walk up to the house, and I come into the door, and he says, don't tell me anything. I said, okay, I won't. Walked in. And for an hour and a half, he said everything that God told me about what was next and where we were going and what we were supposed to do. Just verbatim things that God had told me in prayer that I hadn't even told my wife yet. And I want you to know that God sets up these connections with people, and you might think, well, they're just, a friend, or they're whatever, and they are, and God will connect you with them, and just in the same story, the way that he's telling it. Don't ever belittle the things that God's doing in your life, because he's setting you up for greatness. Amen? Amen.
If you want to go ahead and bring, just don't wait. I also want to say is that this was several years ago. Bob Jones, he prophesied over me. You know how he goes like this. I was kneeling down 2 feet away from him, and he went like this. He prophesied over me. The prophecy is so huge. And I didn't see that even coming to close to what he prophesied. And I thought, that was kind of nice. Before that happened, somebody